All right, let me share my screen here. All right, am I sharing the right screen or do you see all my am I in the right mode? Yeah.
You are.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Ethan Bott. I'm part of the UBC. I've been with them for a few years, and I am excited to share all things eBird. Um, It's one of my two favorite bird apps, and I hope to convince you to download it and use it and contribute to science and contribute to the birding. So, birding smarter with eBird, what it is, why it matters, and how to use it. Um, so, quick little outline. What we're going to do, I'm going to talk about what it is, kind of the history of bird citizen science monitoring, why eBird matters, how to submit a checklist. And then I have a ton of tips and tricks in eBird. So I could talk for hours on eBird. I love the nerdy tech side of data, and then I love birding too. So I could talk for hours. So I'll try to stop rambling at times. If you do have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. And then Monica, if you think it's a good question, feel free to just interrupt me and I can answer it, or we
Sounds
can
good.
save them for the end. However you want to do it.
Sounds good.
Um, and I may ask you questions too as we get to the eBird or to um, the web side of things with eBird. I may ask you what birds you're interested in seeing and how I would approach doing one thing or another. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about what eBird is. eBird is first about who it's for. Um, I just want everyone to know that eBird is for everyone, whether you're a beginner birder or you're a seasoned pro. It's for everyone, whether you're a teacher, a casual birder, or an expert birder. The goal of eBird is to gather bird observational data and in the checklist format, like you see here, to collect that data and then submit it. And that ends up being used. You're contributing to science, and you can contribute to your own life list, depending on how into birding you are. You can kind of, some people start creating lists of the birds they've seen throughout their life. And then also, again, you're helping contribute to science, and they're using your data for science. So here's one I found on waterfall response to late winter extreme climatic event. So that's kind of the very high level of eBird. It's for everyone. And yeah, just a little bit of history of bird monitoring, because you're collecting data, you're monitoring birds. One of the first like modern uh, collection monitoring programs was the Christmas bird count. Started in 1900, where there was only 27 birders, and now there's probably well over 100,000 people contributing worldwide. That was kind of one of the first more formal ways of collecting bird data. But now there's the North American Breeding Bird Survey, there's Project Nest Watch, Hawk Watch, American Kestrel, iNaturalist, the Great Backyard Bird Count, Journey North, Snapshot Wisconsin. Some of them you may have heard, some you may not have heard, but they all in some way do collect bird data in some way, shape, or form. So there are a lot of programs out there doing that. But what makes eBird different? Um, eBird is unique because it captures all birds in the world. There are a couple other programs out there that collect information on all birds of the world, but it's a global monitoring program. It tracks all species of birds. It collects data year round, like right. The winter bird count is really only in winter. Um, the breeding bird survey is really only in summer, collecting information on breeding birds, stuff like that. So eBird can be done at any time, whether I'm at my home office now, or you're driving to Florida, or you're in the plane, even on a ship, wherever you can collect data. And there are hundreds and hundreds of millions of bird observational data out there. It's the bio biodiverse data set in the world. Um, so really cool. You're really a small part of something big, and it's really exciting to be a part of, knowing that you're helping out. So why contribute and what's in it for me? I've kind of alluded to some of these, so I'm kind of repeating myself here, but one of them, tracking your personal bird list, your life list, your county list, your house list. Um, Encourage you to watch the documentary, the YouTube documentary. It just came out a couple months ago. I think it's called The Listers. But you can get in the crazy world of birders with lists. So if you're just starting new, you might just have a life list of all the birds you see. But anyways, you can start getting kind of bird crazy with lists. You can discover what birds are nearby. I'll show you how you can do that on the phone. Um, and then, yep, so there's on the phone, you can kind of see what birds are around you. I'll dive into that. You're contributing to real scientific research. Like here's some status and trends of the wood thrush based off of eBird data. And then it makes you a better birder, depending on how much you get into eBird. Um, you recognize more patterns. You're thinking about the habitat a certain type of bird lives in and such, and you kind of it just makes you think more and become a more well-rounded birder. Here's some more science articles that have been published. It looks like as of 2024, there were almost 1,200 publications using eBird data. So that's really cool. Legitimate scientific articles. I've used it in my work too. I did some work with the Wisconsin Breeding Bird Survey and was helping them find out gaps in their data where they needed more people to go bird. Because there's a big bias towards urban areas of birding, and there's sometimes gaps in rural areas where it'd be helpful to have more data to kind of normalize all the data coming in. And then I just want to show this graph showing the enormous growth of eBird over the years. We have observations, a number of checklists, and then the number of monthly eBirders. It took a really big spike in users during the beginning of COVID. There's a lot of people um, uh, starting to bird then. And you'll see all these spikes in each year. And if you can't see the month here, but if you could guess what month that is, you would be correct if it was May and June here, where we're getting a lot of observations, a lot of checklists coming in May. So let's see, how many monthly eBirders, 200,000, almost 200,000 monthly eBirders during peak migration season. So really a huge user base. Again, this is of eBird. I'll talk a little bit about Merlin. But this is just of eBird of collecting that bird observational data. Oh, here we go. Right on that. I really like Merlin Bird ID and collect bird observational data in Merlin Bird ID. It's a great way to get started and to identify birds. I use Merlin a lot as my kind of data bank of birds that if I want to see a picture of a bird, I use Merlin a lot for that, or I need to do a little more research on the bird. I use Merlin for that. But you can submit recordings through Merlin. I think someone asked, do I need to log in the same in both? Thinking about it, I think if you do sign in both Merlin and eBird with the same account, when you submit data on Merlin, it will automatically upload into your eBird. So I think you could have different accounts, but if you want them to be synced together, probably should log in with the same account. As you get better, and want to collect more data, I think you might find it more natural to collect data in eBird. It's a little bit easier. You can add more observations in eBird than in Merlin. But I just want to recommend, I love Merlin. It's great. I use it a ton in eBird. So those are one more app to rule them all, kind of two apps to rule them all. In terms of birds. Highly recommend downloading both, such like that. So what are you waiting for? We're going to go into eBird online on the web, and we'll also explore eBird mobile. And that's the wrong graphic. It should be eBird, not Merlin. So with that, I am going to hop into sharing my phone screen and I'm going to just jump into submitting a checklist on your phone. I am using an iPhone and it will look a little bit different if you have Android. So if you have questions, if I'm saying something you're like, it doesn't look like this for me, what should I do? I recommend just shouting out the questions and I can kind of try to walk through that. Um, okay, let's see if I can do this. All right. Can you see my phone?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So if you've downloaded that, go ahead and hopefully that app is showing on your phone screen. Um, uh, I'm gonna go ahead and open up eBird. It's gonna look a little different. I guess I could log out and log back in. Depends on where you are, if you already have an account or if you're just opening it for the first time, but go ahead and log in, go ahead and do all that stuff. Um, and as I think about it, if you're opening it for the first time, it may ask you to download certain packs. And let me see. Um, I recommend it depends. Yeah, I recommend downloading the recommended pack. I think it'll recommend it to you if you give your location. So I recommend that you download, like if you're in Minnesota, download the Minnesota pack. I think I already, wow, I don't have the Minnesota pack downloaded. Um, Granted, the Wisconsin and Minnesota app would be pretty similar. Um, but I so go ahead and do that. If you are going to be traveling around the country, you could download the entire United States one. I think there is. Maybe I can search it. I did. Oh, is it? There is some way you can download the entire country. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look. It's going to take up a ton of relatively a lot of space on your phone. The bigger the the pack you do. So if you feel like I'm only even collecting data in Minnesota, just download the Minnesota pack and you'll be good to go. It'll download a lot quicker and stuff like that. So that's for pack. Um, I'm in the settings here in the bottom right, by the way. If it's showing Latin name, you can change that here with the species name display to Latin. Um, you can change other things to meters or miles, whatever. Okay. If there are any questions about that, I'm going to get into submitting a checklist. Um, if you go to the submit in the bottom left, um, hopefully, if it's updated, your app, it should look something like this, where you see the date on top, the time, record track, choose project, start checklist. You can ignore choose projects as kind of more if you're really into eBird. Um, and then, so your first decision is, do you leave record track on or off? And you have to give it your permission to access your location if you want. Totally up to you. You don't have to. Um, I do my bird checklist usually at the end of a birding excursion. So I almost never turn record track on. That's just my habit. But if you want to, you can turn that on. It's kind of cool at the beginning of when you're going to go on, say, a 1 mile walk. At the end, you can kind of see your route. Um, and I'm thinking it actually does help eBird from Corn. I should have mentioned this through Cornell. eBird's through Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I think that data does help them kind of refine their analysis of the data if you do have record track on. But anyways, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Oh, here we go. It says we do. I have never read this. We strongly recommend using it. So I guess it does help them a lot. Um, I'm going to turn it off just out of habit, but feel free to keep record track on. And I'm going to go ahead and start checklist. Um, it it may look a little bit different than you. This is organized taxonomically. Um, and I think in the settings you can change it differently. I think you can change it to like the most likely or not show um, the ones here in red. Um, I'll talk a little bit about what that means first. But just generally in submitting a checklist, it should look something like this. And then you're going to go on your walk. You can either add data as you're walking, or I like to do at the end and compile it at the end. If I'm with a group of people, I like to talk about like, hey, how many Canada geese did we see? So you can click on the plus button and just kind of just if there's only like three, you can do that. But if there's a big what do you call a group of Canada geese? I don't know, but flock, is there some other name? Um, and you can tap on it, and then in the number observed, you could say maybe 200, something like that. Um, there are strategies if there's lots of geese, say on a pond or a lake or something, and it's overwhelming, count every individual one. You can kind of break it up into groups of 10, like take a screenshot and then like divide it into 10, and then you just count one group of 10, and then multiply it by 10. So you don't have to count every single individual. Anyways, there's some strategies on when there's a lot of individuals. But do your best on counting the individual um, species that you see. Now, I know that I'm not an expert birder, and we all can all be better birders, and we're all continually learning. Do your best to identify it to the species level, right? The Canada goose. But if you don't know if it's Canada goose or not, I recommend choosing the next order of like not magnitude of like family, the next coarser level, so it's not the species level. So if you saw a bunch of geese and you don't know Canada goose or a cackling goose or something like that, you could add the goose species here. Or if you're like, oh, is it cackling or Canada? Sometimes you'll see this slash here and it's either or. Again, this is data that's being used for science, and so it's okay if you get it wrong. But if you unconfident, you just keep going up. Like if you can identify, um, if you know it's a warbler, but you don't know what type of warbler. I, okay, well, we're not going to have any warblers showing up because it's um, kind of taking out all. It's telling you based off your time and location, it's not going to show me warblers as an option here. I'm pretty sure in the settings I can change it to show me every single species in Wisconsin year round. But anyways, um, so if you can't identify the warbler to the species level, there's a warbler SP period option too. And that is great data to get it to that level of detail. Um, it's not recommended to be like, I saw a warbler. I don't know. I can't identify it. I'm just going to go with yellow rumped warbler. That's probably not recommended to do that. So it's totally fine to go to a coarser level and enter that data like that. These dots here mean it's unreported in the area. So typically, you're not going to see Ross's goose around the Twin Cities at this time. It might start popping up here in the next month or two, but it's being unreported. And then the little half yellow moon means that it's infrequent for that area. So if I went to the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, and I went and I opened up eBird, it actually might show a lot of red here, even though a trumpeter swan is pretty common, say in that area. But if no one's submitting data in that area, you might see a lot of red. So don't get um, nervous by if you see a lot of red or if you add an observation that has a red dot. So just wanted to share that information. Wanted to share one more cool little thing, especially in the breeding season. It depends on what bird, but if you click on the species, the bird, you'll see add breeding code here, kind of at the bottom. If you want to get cool and fancy, and maybe this is maybe a later eBird talk, because there are a lot of codes here, but you can add in breeding information. So if you see a little duckling, fledgling, you could then add fledgling and say maybe, and then maybe add a note about 15 fledglings or something like that. Um, So these breeding codes help refine the data if you want to. I don't do this all the time, but if you want to, you can totally do that. Let's get into rare birds. Um, let's think of a rare. Does anyone have a rare bird for this time of year in Minnesota? Um,
So actually, there have been reports of warblers in western Minnesota. So, sometimes you just have to start adding it, and even though it's not, you know, common right now.
Great. Let's go warbler. We'll say there's a blue-winged warbler at this time of year um, that I'm seeing. When you add that, so we see that red that says uh, quite uncommon. It's not being reported in the area. And then we see the little R over here. That tells you it's rare for whatever reason. Maybe if you maybe I put in northern cardinal, right? There are northern cardinals right outside my window. But if I said there were 500 northern cardinals, actually I'll go ahead and do that. We'll see what happens. Okay, great. We get an exclamation. So that it's saying it's unusual for that. And these two types of symbols require further documentation um, to tell they're called eBird reviewers who are helping um, just make sure the data is what we kind of call is normalized for the most part. So we're not submitting, I saw 500 flamingos in Minnesota day after day after day. We don't want that data really being submitted. Um, and it, it likely isn't right. Now, if it is true, they would require documentation like a written note or photo evidence. Now, if you feel like you saw a flamingo, that is totally fine, and you can submit that. If you thought you saw a blue-winged warbler today, totally fine to submit it. Um, Bird to the best of your ability. Just know that you may get further. You may be asked. You may get an email asking for further documentation of that. Um, Not saying that you're wrong or anything. So yeah. So we'll go with the blue-winged warbler. I'm gonna click on my blue-winged warbler, and then in the details, I'll leave a note. Um, I'm trying to think of blue-winged warbler, long, black beak. Um, and then this is where I've become actually a better birder. I have to think about this rare bird, and I'm thinking it has warbler behavior. It was fleeting in the trees, right? If a fish crow, which would be rare here in Minnesota, if I said it was fleeting around in the tree, that would be a clue that it's probably not a fish crow because fish crows, I'm guessing, don't flit around in trees. So if you do some research and report your observation, that's important for doing this. So flitting in tree. I think it has white wing bars as well. Um, and yeah. Now, if you're going to see a rare bird that a lot of other people are seeing, like say um, a whooping crane or something, if a lot of people are seeing that and you actually see them taking photos, say of the rare bird, a lot of times the culture is just to say continuing, right? So if a lot of people are reporting the same bird, you can just say continuing and then done, and that's enough. And now it's not highlighted in yellow. Yep. Same for the Northern Cardinal. If I saw 500 of them, it's saying that's unusual. There you go. Please add comments. It's higher than expected. But again, it could be true. So, okay. Sorry. There you go. And then say, um, I had uh, my entire yard was covered in seed and they all came in. So you could describe and explain why. But it could be valid. It definitely could be valid. So, um, lots of seed on ground. They were feeding. This is terrible comment. So let's not. Yeah, use good uh comments to your best of your ability if that does happen. So, anyways, All right, let's see. A quick little tip is at the bottom middle, you see that little five. If you're like, have I added the chickadee that I saw? Instead of having to scroll through all the species, especially in May when this list is going to grow a lot more because there's a lot of potential species I could see. If you click that five in the bottom, it will show you just the species that you have um, said you've seen. So, quick little way, be like, oh, I didn't get that chickadee, and then you can go to add observations or find species in the top. Click on that, and then type I saw three space chickadees, and then it'll do that there. So there are two ways of kind of finding the species in eBird, either scrolling through or typing it in. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, you can if you click the bottom left, the three bars with lines in it, you can choose different ways on sorting, stuff like that. You can add general checklist comments. I'm clicking in the bottom left, that little comment button. You can add comments, be like 30 degrees, snowing. You really don't need to, but if you want to remember it, or maybe whatever comment you want to leave, yeah, go ahead and do that. Okay, we're ready. I'm gonna delete the blue-winged warbler, kind of make it somewhat realistic. Um, and what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. Okay. So we'll go ahead and go to review in the bottom right. And let me know if you have questions about the checklist and finding birds and adding birds. Oh, I was gonna say something about dead birds. If
I
you
want to know how to use the.
yeah, if you have a question, feel free to send it in the chat. Um, if you see a dead bird, um, there's a debate from the eBird Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They recommend you not enter dead birds into eBird. But in an instance, I found a dead Sora in the back of my alley a number of years ago. If you want to, because it's kind of nice so I can go back to my records and be like, oh yeah, when did I see that dead Sora? You can go ahead and do, we'll say one Sora. And obviously it's rare because it shouldn't be here at this time of year. But what you can do, so you add it as one, and then you go back and change it to a zero, and then you can submit it like that. Again, there's a debate, so I'll leave it at that. But if you do want to submit dead bird sightings, there is a way of doing that, and that's kind of the way you would do it. So, um, again, you can switch back to see all the species. And if you don't see a species like that Sora, maybe you really did see that Sora. You can, if you don't see it on here, just go ahead and click on the top and type in and start spelling out that bird. Um, and sometimes it's when I use Merlin. If I can't remember the bird's name, I'm like searching for the picture in Merlin. Once I find the picture, find the name, I come back to eBird, and then I'm able to write out the common name in eBird. So, okay. Moving on, in the bottom right, say this is my list. I'm gonna move on to review in the bottom right, and we see a number of things here. We'll start out with the location at the top. Choose a location. You could do location before too, but we'll do it right now. It's going to show you my current location. Here I am at my current location. But say you went out, maybe I'm submitting this checklist in the morning. I went for a walk earlier in the morning. I'm going to zoom out and say I went at Theodore Park. Um, we'll say right here. You'll see all these little hotspots with a little flame on it. These are like public hotspots, public access, usually for the most part. Don't quote me on that. Um, and say I generally went for a walk like around the golf course, around the lake. I might choose this hotspot here, and I would use that location. Click use the location in the bottom middle. Now, say I went to a friend's house this morning, and it was like right here in the middle of the screen. You can tap and hold your finger and drop a pin, and then create location, and then click save. and it's going to give it some wild like address information because it's not a known location that everyone else is using. So you could name it and you could say Monica's house, something like that, if you want to. Or if you're driving and you see a red-tailed hawk, and you're on the middle of the highway, you don't need to name it something. You could just be I-94. It's going to give it what I-94, blah blah blah, the coordinates, and that's totally fine. So you don't have to name every location, but if you want to, that's fine. I have a name for my house. I've named it. I don't recommend you put your actual house location. So this is where you see my current location. I've created a pin at an intersection nearby called 36 and a half. It's just nice if people are, because your data is public, right? So people can look up your data. So if you're submitting data every single day, and no one's gonna do anything bad with that. But like, if you want to protect your privacy a little bit, it's okay if you move that pin 5 houses away, a block away from where you live, um, or if you're protecting, say, an owl, that a sensitive species, you can drop that pin not at the exact location, and that's totally fine to do that. So we're gonna go ahead and choose 36 and a half Avenue and say that happened. Oh, cool! I already selected it, and then click on the top right. Oh, that didn't work. Back to choose location. Tap it. Huh, that's weird. I just updated the app. I'm wondering if it is like bugging out. That's crazy. It's not letting me um choose a location. This hadn't happened to me, so I guess I won't be able to submit the checklist. I don't know if it's happening all to you or you can't choose a location. That they better fix that bug pretty quick because people aren't going to be submitting data. But anyways, make sure you gotta choose a location. So go ahead and do that. Now the next thing is we have 4 options here for an observation type: incidental, stationary, traveling, or other. Um, this helps refine the data for eBird, Cornell Lab of Ornithology, to tell you what type, how you collected that data. Because there's different, like if you're traveling, like you're just it. I think they have ways in their code when they analyze the data. There are different biases and assumptions that they use based off of what you use. So if I'm just here at my home office, I have the window open and I'm birding, I would choose stationary. If I'm on a walk, I choose traveling. If I'm driving and I see a red-tailed hawk, I would say incidental. Okay, so just make sure you use the right one. Let's see, other. Yeah, these 4 down here you would very unlikely use unless you're really getting into birding. So we'll go ahead and choose traveling. Once you choose that, you'll see traveling there. And if you made a mistake, you fat fingered it, you can go back to the 3 dots in the top right, and you can choose stationary, yada yada. So go ahead and put the number of observers that you were with. We'll say I was with a friend. Go ahead and put the amount of time in. This is when you get to do some math. Like if you went out for 2 hours and 12 minutes, 60 times 2 plus 12, 132, stuff like that. Doesn't have to be exact. I do recommend, if you want your data to be used for science, typically the Cornell Lab of Ornithology is looking for a minimum of 5 minutes of observational time. So if you submit it with just 1 minute, it's quote unquote lower quality data. You can submit 1 minute checklists. That's totally fine, no problem. But it's better data if you a minimum of 5 minutes. Go ahead and put the number of miles you walked. We'll say 1.2 miles. And you'll see, like, go put observers back to 1. You'll see that share checklist option has not appeared because I'm the only person. It will appear if I add 1 person or more. This option will come through, and I can click on share checklist and say I want to share it with Kendra right here. And that option will come up. I click done in the top right, and it will be shared with 1 eBirder. For Android, I think it's a little bit different here. So if you're an Android user and it's looking different, just be aware that you might need to add two or more or something like that. This is nice if you're okay, now I'm getting into something. We're getting into the data. I love talking about data. So from eBird's perspective, if we all here on the call went out to go birding and we all submitted our own checklist and we all saw the exact same birds, 200 geese, 5 cardinals, it would be kind of duplicating that data, right? Ideally, it's totally fine for that to happen. That's fine. But ideally, the best practice is if you are with a group of people, is to share that checklist so you all get it to your own personal eBird account. But then eBird knows that it wasn't like, I mean, I think they are, if we did go out and we submitted our own checklist, I think they would be able to figure out based off the time that is likely if we, that there weren't 1,400 geese. It really was 200 geese. So I think they are uh, looking for that. But anyways, recommend sharing it with people if you can. Okay. The next big question, is this a complete checklist of the birds you were able to identify? This is again another just like thing for eBird to tell it the quality of the data. Now, if I'm driving down on the highway and I see the red-tailed hawk, I'm going to say no. This is not a complete checklist of the birds I was able to identify. If I'm on a meeting and I look out the window and I see a couple cool birds, I'm going to say no, this is not a complete checklist. This is a question to say, are you predominantly birding? Are you out there to bird or not? Now, if you're a beginner birder and you don't know every bird, I don't know every bird, you can still say yes, you went out birding and you heard birds everywhere. And you were like, I got robin, I got cardinals, I got chickadee. You can say yes. The best of your, it's really to the best of your ability were you able to identify. Now, again, it kind of gets back to that thing. If you saw a bunch of warblers, you're not able to identify them, and then you start saying, "Oh, it's a yellow-rumped warbler or a yellow warbler," and you're not sure. Probably stick to say it's a warbler species, and you can still then say this is a complete checklist of the birds you're able to identify. So we're just getting into quality of data. You know, this is, I don't know, it's exciting stuff for me. But okay, I've been talking a lot about this, and I don't think I'll be able to submit because I can't get a location. I'll try one more time. Don't think it's going to work. Oh, it worked. What the heck? Great. Use this location. Great. Okay. Once you do that, you can click submit in the bottom right. I'm going to go ahead and click submit. And look, great. It's going to be shared with Kendra. Okay. Submitting. Great. Now in the bottom left, I want to check my checklist. I want to make sure it was correct. I go to my checklist, I see not submitted, and then I see submitted. I actually realized I need to change the time. So here it is. I see at the top. When I click on it, I needed to change the time of it. I click on it. I click on the top right, the edit button. I'm going to go to the top, click on the time. Oh, looks like I have to click on review in the bottom right. Then click on the time. It was actually 6:25 in the morning when I saw it. Great. Now it's at 6:25 a.m. Submit. So really easy to edit your checklist when you submit it. Sometimes there's a bird that I couldn't. I wasn't sure what type of bird it was, and I need to do more research back at home and later. And so but then I go to a new location and I start birding. So I might have a checklist in the not submitted section that I will come back to later. So here's one in Lake Bronson, Minnesota. I need to come back and verify and figure out if I'm going to submit that or not. So anyways, you have submitted and not submitted there. Two more things in the eBird app is the bottom middle, the Explore button. I don't use this option very much, but it's totally an option out there. If you share your current location, it has my current location here, and you can kind of do some fancy stuff. You can find some nearby hotspots. So that's that little flame icon. Those are usually public areas. So it shows you some nearby. in the top, I can say see who's visited it recently, and then see which ones are unvisited recently. And you can change all of this. Um, you can change it based off of species seen. Um, Target species. I think you can change what ones are your target species. And so there's kind of a lot in the Explore if you want to do your own research on like figuring out where to go bird. I find it the easiest to actually do it online. There's a lot more customization that you can do online to kind of hone in on where you want. But if you're out in the field already, you picked out your spot ahead of time, and you're like, now where should I go? I'm out in the field. I think the Explore option is a great way to see kind of what's around you immediately. You can see that when it's in red, it was recently visited, and then blue is it hasn't been visited in I think the last 7 days or something like that. Um, so hotspots are really great to know where people are birding. Obviously, if you go to a more rural area, it will be less data. It still might be a great place to bird, but there might not just be people reporting in that area. The last thing I want to show you is my eBird. If you want quick statistics about what you've seen so far. So here in Hennepin County, I've seen 18 species of birds this year. And you can change the location in the top right. We'll say for the whole state of Minnesota, I've seen 38 species. And it kind of shows you, compares you from past years at that single. So today is the 10th. So last year in 2025 for Minnesota, I only saw 17 species by this time. So it's kind of cool just to see where you are, the state of things, stuff like that. Okay. Any questions on
Yeah.
submitting a checklist?
Yeah. Oh, so Ethan, can you go back to maybe like hotspots? So just a little bit more time on the hotspots and then showing how like they're going to show like 3 or 4 various hotspots and how you can go to that hotspot and see what's been seen in a
Yeah,
particular
that's a
park.
great. So let's pick one that probably has more data. Um, so go ahead and zoom into that hotspot. You can change the radius. You could have a tighter radius. Like it's kind of overwhelming, especially in the Twin Cities. I have a big radius. It's showing me a ton of hotspots. But go ahead and zoom into the spot you're interested in, and then click on details. And you see in the top left, 115 species have been seen here of all time. The middle is likely. So at this time, if you were to go, they're likely 22, I'd probably say at the higher side that you would see at that time. And then the far right would be 9 species have been seen in the last 7 days. So that kind of gives you a nice um, expectation if you were to go there, what you might see. So right now I have the 9 highlighted. So it's showing me these 9 were seen in the last 7 days. But if I do the 22 likely, um, there may be a shot at seeing a hooded merganser, Cooper's hawk. These are the ones that potentially could be seen. I think there are directions. If I click directions, yep, I click the directions and it will route me there from my house. Um, let's see. I think in the top right, you can change. Here we go. You can change your radius here, so you're not pulling in from 30 miles, which is overwhelming in a metro area. So we'll just do 1 mile. Um, and I really want to just look at a really tight radius, a really tight period of time, and click done. And there, I think there's one hotspot just shy of there, so I think I need to go a little bit bigger radius. There we go. So these are hotspots within 2 miles of where I am right now. You can do that. Let's see what else.
What if you wanted to find a particular species?
I That's a good question. I don't know. If someone knows, I don't know if you can do that in eBird mobile.
Okay.
Oh, here you can. You can. Okay. I really don't use this part the most, so if someone knows more, feel free to chime in. But it looks like you can switch here in the bottom left, that green icon. You can tap it and search species. Let me put my radius higher so it'll do a better job. Okay, let's see. A species I would like to see. Um, a grackle, common grackle. Okay, I'm gonna click on it. Boom. Uh, it looks like in my radius, there's one by on the Lake of the Isles. I click on it. Looks like it was seen 2 hours ago. I think if I click on it, it should show me their checklist. Great. Here's their checklist on today, this morning, and they had two common grackle. And look, they have some nice comments here. It's really nice when people leave comments and when you're trying to find a species. Um, Per usual, arriving alongside the red-winged blackbirds to claim one corner of the lake as grackle territory. Great. So yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool that you can search for species in the app.
Great.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from folks? Feel free to unmute and just ask. You don't have to put it in the chat.
So I looked for common loon just to be curious, and like it doesn't show up at all on the list. Is that just because they're not really in the Twin Cities, or am I doing something weird? Like where it says search species in this area, I tried to see loon.
It's probably because they're not being seen, and
Okay.
it's a good little segue. I'm gonna we can double check here, and I'm gonna transition now to the web. Can you all see the eBird website now? Does that look correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is a great question. It looks like you can do it in the app, but you're unsure. Like, am I going crazy? Like, I feel like there should be loons, but it's not showing me in the app. What's going on? So if we go to, for this question, I would go to species maps here on eBird. Okay, I guess if you first come in here, you'll see kind of your little profile page, and you'll see some buttons up here. I spend most of my time on eBird in the Explore tab and the species maps over here. I think a lot of people often will say, oh, let's look at the loon and put it in here. That's totally fine to do it, but it's kind of more general information. But we're trying to see where the loons are as of today, the past few days. So I'll go to species maps. Up here, I'll type in common loon. And you'll see my date range is year-round all years. We are about to get inundated showing me a ton of common loon data, which isn't very helpful because I want to know where are the loons in the past couple of days, right? Inundated. This is lots of loons being reported in these areas. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the date range. And if you just click on year-round current year right here, it just allows you to skip kind of having to put in this precise time range. This usually works better in the beginning of the year, right? So like in fall when they're migrating back the loons and you do year-round current year, it's going to show you data all over here. But it's helpful because it resets year-round current year, right, every year. So it's only been 3 months of data. So if I do year-round current year, set date range, and you see these little purple rectangles of data. This is where they're being seen. The darker it is, the more it's being reported. Now, I don't know this part of Missouri. It's looking like dark purple, but I'm guessing it's more rural. If you're the only person in that entire little rectangle of space to submit a loon report, it's going to show darker. Now, if there was a loon reported in the Twin Cities the past couple of days, it would show as light purple because a lot of other people are reporting around it, and that compared to the rest of all the other checklists is relatively not not significant, but it doesn't hold as much spatial weight. If that makes sense. So we can kind of see where they are. It looks like one made it to Madison. We can zoom in. Wow, there. This is where eBird's fun. There was a loon in Madison in January of this year. There must have been a tiny bit of water open. So my guess is that the loons have not made it this far north is mainly because all the lakes are still frozen up. But let's kind of zoom in. Here we go. So the lake must have opened up over here. Where am I? What state? Missouri. And I'm going to zoom in. Orange is recent, I think last 30 days, last 20 days. I'm going to click on that. There you go. 2 days, 3 days ago, it was seen. And then when you click on it, you can see a little observational note thing that means they left a note for that specific species. So it looks like on February 25th, it was seen. I'm guessing they got flagged for it because it was unusual, and they were asked to submit a comment. But there you go. There's their comment, and well done. They described it. They talked about what it looked like, stuff like that. And a great thing that they did is they compared it to other birds that it might be confused with. So uh, they did a great job saying, "Hey, it's not a common merganser that were nearby. It was definitely a common loon." So that's a great example of if you're interested in the bird, what's going on. I think another great one is common or red-winged blackbird. I just saw my first one today. Let me know in the chat if you saw your first red-winged blackbird or heard it yet. And we'll see how far the red-winged blackbirds have made it. So this is kind of fun. It's just fun in eBird um, looking this up. So again, I'm in year-round current year. They definitely have made it. That's kind of cool. So you can kind of guess where that line is of where they've made it, right? So they're definitely in the Twin Cities. Let's zoom in. And there you go. They're popping up. We'll click on a couple. It's all and a lot of the stuff in eBird for you to figure out things, it requires time and research. So like this doesn't tell you the story of like maybe this could have been 10 days ago when this all happened. But when you start clicking on all of them, you'll see it's in the past 2 days. Yesterday, that this was 2 days ago. This was yesterday. So the more you kind of click on observations, the more you can kind of help create a picture of what's going on. But that requires you of like, you gotta click, you gotta read people's comments, stuff like that. Um, so yeah, but we can kind of see how far north some of them went. Let's see. Okay, it looks like some of them overwintered here in Grand Forks. Yeah, those definitely overwintered. They must have had someone was keeping water open for them or something. Okay, I just want to find how far north they've. This is probably a good bar. Yeah, there you go. 2 days ago. So they've made it to like St. Cloud area. Looks like it's far north that they've gotten in numbers. There might be a few stragglers that really pushed up far north. So kind of cool to get a story of the data of the birds of what's going on.
Can you, Ethan, talk about on eBird? I'm pretty sure it's eBird now it's like I've been
Yep.
doing it forever, is getting the list sent to you, either daily or weekly of species in your area. Um,
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the question is like, say you're wanting to find a uh hmm, you want, I mean, I guess you could say, when do you want the first red-winged blackbird to come? And you want to be alerted when the first one in your area is reported in your county. Or it could be when is a black-bellied whistling duck being seen? Or is it you have your life list, you have your 50 species that you've seen in your life, and you're like, I really want to see a blue-winged warbler. If it ever gets seen in my county, send me an email. So what you can do is if you go back to the Explore tab here and you go to the alerts down here, we'll put in you go to rare bird alerts and we'll say Hennepin County. Um, well, okay, two things. If you want to be notified of rare birds in general, so rare bird, like a flamingo in Minnesota would be rare. You will be alerted. That would alert you. If a blue-winged warbler in May is not a rare bird, but for that time of year, it is a rare bird. So if a blue-winged warbler was seen today, it would trigger, and I saw that and I reported it. Everyone who signs up for the rare bird alerts for Hennepin County would get an email saying, "Hey, Ethan saw a blue-winged warbler today," um, and stuff like that. So you can sign up for them, and I could subscribe, and I would get all the rare bird alerts for Hennepin County. You could sign up for Minnesota, state of Minnesota. You could sign up for the whole country. You would get thousands of email, or I think we'd actually get one email a day, but in that email, it would have a
Y-
ton
y-
of
What you,
observations.
yeah, what you don't want to do is get hourly alerts, especially in
Yep.
spring migration, because you will be overwhelmed.
Yep. All right. I think your question was though for needs alerts. So if you really want to be notified of a blue-winged warbler, you'll put in Hennepin County, right? Because I'm not going to go travel all the way, say, up to Duluth for a blue-winged warbler. So I'm not going to put in St. Louis County. And it's been a while since I've done a needs alert. Um, oops, Hennepin. I think if I do subscribe. Oh, okay. This is we're really getting into it. If we go to how do we change our needs? Um, is it target species? Yeah, no, I don't think I fully prepared. I haven't set. So if you know Monica, if you
No,
remember
no,
how to
I
change
I
your
wasn't asking about a needs. Like
okay.
I'm like, what's being seen? Like just, as a just a general birder, what are people seeing in my area? And then you'll get an alert from eBird to say like, here's all the sightings. And again, as we get into spring migration, the list is going to be longer and longer.
Hmm.
I do one for Minnesota, but you can do one for, like, Ethan said, you can do one for Hennepin County, Ramsey County, or, a certain number of miles.
Yeah, I'm actually just realizing needs alert is all the birds you have not seen in your life. Um, or you can kind of change it based off of what list you want. So again, we're kind of getting technical. But if you've never seen a blue-winged warbler, you've never seen a whooping crane, you've never seen a black-bellied whistling duck, um, you can just sign up for needs alerts, and that will be sent to you. Or maybe a bird that is not as uncommon, maybe a cackling goose or something. If you've never seen that, it would show up, and you get an email about it when it's seen in your area. Um, okay, what I want to do is, man, I could keep talking for another couple hours, so I can be done talking whenever we want to go to questions. But um, there are a couple use cases for using eBird Web that I want to talk about. Is how to use eBird if I want to find a specific bird, and and then how to use eBird to scout out a place that I'm going. Like if I'm traveling to Florida, how would I use eBird Web to my advantage, right? Because when I go to Florida, there are a lot of birds there I've never heard of in my life, I've never seen in my life. And so the more you prepare before you go show up in Florida in a foreign bird area, you will become a better birder because you know what to expect, you know what people are seeing and stuff like that. So there are two things I'll talk about. I'll dive quickly back into if you're trying to find a specific species. Um, let's see. We'll go with uh, sharp-tailed grouse. So go back to explore species, sharp-tailed grouse. So this is kind of just like exploratory data analysis. We're just kind of exploring the data of sharp-tailed grouse in general. Okay, you see they're all over here. Um, got it. The really important thing is you need to change your date range. Like if it depends on when you're going. Like if I'm about to go tomorrow to find sharp-tailed grouse, I want to narrow in my date range to March and maybe of the past 10 years. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll say March to March, um, up for the past 10 years. Okay. Because especially with sharp-tailed grouse, the range has really drastically declined, I'm guessing, in the past 30 years. So if you're looking at data from 20, 30 years ago, not like there's a lot of eBird data from that long ago. But past 10 years, here's a good place of where they have been. Kind of zoom in to some areas. Looks like they're not being seen in this area. Oh, I see some orange. They were seen here recently. I'll click on it. Hey, that was seen a couple days ago. That's pretty recent. Oh, someone left a comment here. That was only, oh, that was last year. Okay. I think there's some more recent observations. I'm trying to remember where it was. Oh, I'm way too far north. Here, oh, great. This was seen yesterday, and they left a video, so you can click on that, and boom, there's a video. This this is one of the better things. I wasn't prepared for this. Um, this is really great. This type of pin that tells you it's probably exactly at this field, right? Some of the hot spots, like say this is a big park right here. That hot spot might be like right here, and they say they saw a sharp-tailed grouse. You don't know where in the park it is unless they leave a comment. But when they leave this little specific pin, it's likely that that person saw them right here. So that's a great clue. That the type of pin, obviously you can't walk onto this land, it's probably private property, but they probably viewed from the road here. Um, so again, I talked about it. It takes a lot of research when you're trying to find the bird you're trying to see. Another one is called the Easter, or another one is Eastern screech owl. If you're trying to find this owl, I'm gonna go uh, year round past 10 years. It takes time to read people's comments. So Eastern screech owl is not a eBird sensitive species. Um, but I know right over here, one was seen later last year. Um, and like I want to see an Eastern screech owl. At that time, if I did a tighter time range, you wouldn't see all these other. Um, it's kind of overwhelming. But once you tighten your time, so the important thing is tighten your time range, so you're not getting a ton of data. Um, and to be currently mostly, or at least the previous years, to get a good idea of typically where they'd be. And then it just takes time. Got to reading people's comments if they leave a comment. So you go through there, you see photographs. That is a okay. Here's a little tip. If people leave photographs and you look at it, especially for owls, that gives you a clue of what tree. I kid you not. It gives you a clue of what tree to look for when you're looking for that owl. So photographs are helpful, especially for owls, because they're usually very unique trees. Um, Now, if you're trying to find a great gray owl or a long-eared owl, those locations are protected. And in a future eBird lecture, I will talk about some tips and tricks to find. Um, it sounds terrible, but to clues to help you find one. Yeah, I'll show you what I mean. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this. Long-eared owl. When you click on long-eared owl and you zoom in to Minnesota, you'll see at a certain extent, you see kind of this purple stuff. They're being seen here generally. Once you zoom in, it disappears. It's to protect them from large groups of people, disturbing them, taking photographs, and just kind of being disturbed by just a lot of people going to see it. So typically for owls, they're protected. But Eastern screech owls, great horns, they don't have that kind of filter on it. Again, I could talk a lot just about kind of tips and tricks on finding birds, but I think I'm going to jump over quickly to how I scout out other places and then leave some time for questions. I think I'm going to have to do 5 more lectures on eBird to get it all done. So we'll pretend I am going to Florida, spring break. I guess spring break's kind of happening right now, but we'll say in like 2 weeks, I'm going down to Florida for spring break. What I'll do is I'll go to that Explore tab and I'll go to Explore Hotspots. And you'll see the whole country is lit up with all the bird observation, how many species have been seen. I'm going to zoom in, say I'm going to Orlando. And right now, again, my filter is for year round all year. Okay. I immediately am told by this hotspot, it look 345 species. Okay, this is a hotspot for sure. But maybe it's only a spring migration hotspot. What is it actually in March? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a filter on March, and we'll do it for all years, and we'll see. Okay, it still is out of all the data. Use the legend here to kind of give you a clue. So the cooler the color, the fewer species. However, 50 blue, light blue is 50 to 100. That's still a lot of species. So even though if you don't see kind of these red colors, I'd still check out some of these other ones and stuff. But it still looks like it's quite the hot spot there. So I would click on it and then I click on view details. And I kind of investigate what are people seeing there right now. It's going to show you all the most recent species being seen. So again, it looks like you can do this on eBird mobile, but it's just easier. I do a lot of research on eBird when I'm going to a new place. It's hard to do it on the phone, in my opinion. So it's just easier to do it here. Well, it looks like 99 species have been seen in March. Um, and it looks like Bonaparte skull. Great. I haven't worked on my gull ID in a long time. I should probably look at what a breeding Bonaparte skull looks like to be prepared when I go down there. Um, uh, Bulvarus whistling duck. I don't think I've ever seen one of them. I should probably figure out what that looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. Be like, okay, I should maybe get prepared to see this. So when I'm there birding and there are birds all around, I'm not gonna be at a loss and be a little bit prepared that it's somewhere in the back of my head. I've seen an image of what this looks like. You could do more and start playing the audio of it. Um, let's see, listen, so you can listen for it here, and stuff like that. So it takes a certain amount of research. I also like to look at people's most recent checklists. I like if they're like kind of within the same time span, I'll look at the one that has the most. And if you click on it, this is a great way. Oh my gosh, 45 black-bellied whistling ducks. If you've never seen one, now's a great time to research it. You're prepared. You're likely going to see a black-bellied whistling duck. Soras are really hard to see, but you can get ready for that. Black neck stilts, so they're so cute. So just kind of going through and reading people's checklists, getting an idea of what people are seeing. What that was 2 days ago that people saw that. Time of day is helpful too. Um, Generally morning and late afternoon, early evening are good times, but it's helpful to kind of get an idea of all of that. There are other ways. I'll show one last thing, and I think we'll move into questions. Is the bar chart bar chart option. So I was going to I went to North Dakota a couple years ago, and in July, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to see in North Dakota in July. So I went to explore. I went to bar charts here. I'm going to go to pick my state, North Dakota. Counties in North Dakota. Continue. Shoot, what was the county? Hold on. Oh, I forget the county that, like, if you know where you're going, Medora, North Dakota, county. Billings. There we go. Thank you, Google. Billings. Continue. What I like to do is you'll see the bar chart. You'll see the frequency of when birds are reported in that area for that county. And I'll hold my cursor, say right in the beginning of July, as I think when I was there, and I'll use the scroll wheel on my mouse, and I'll just start scrolling down and seeing the more green, like Canada goose is seen a lot in March and April. And the great white-fronted goose is not reported at all in the summer there. So I'll just kind of start scrolling down. And I was interested in sparrows in North Dakota. So I'm going to kind of scroll all the way down where the sparrows are. Let's see, where are they? A lot of birds here. Okay, here we go. Look at that. There are a lot of lark sparrows being reported there. There are lark buntings being reported there. That's helpful. Okay, no American tree sparrows. I probably don't need to prepare for what those to identify those. So it just helps you eliminate what is likely not to be there and what is likely to be there. And so you can just, prepare for that trip. Say if you're going to go in May, you might see white crown, Harris sparrows, stuff like that. So I use the bar charts to kind of scout out a county, you can put to a hot spot too. a known hotspot, stuff like that. So with that, there are 10 minutes left for questions. And I have a whole page of my outline of when I want to go, and I have pages left to go. So again, 10 more lectures to go of eBird stuff. Um, I've been talking a lot. So I'll turn it over to questions. I'll keep my screen shared. So if you have a question, I can just show you quickly or anything like that.
Questions for Ethan? Jocelyn, you have to have a question.
No, I don't.
Jocelyn's really good at eBird though.
Yeah. And if there aren't questions, I mean, I can just keep talking about all other stuff. We could talk about how to submit a checklist on the web, how to add photos, how to import your own data if you have a previous data set, how to export your data, how to change a location. Like, my location name for my house is 36 and a half, but maybe I want to change it to something Ethan's house or something like that. Um, we can go into how to explore kind of some of the signs and trends being seen, how they're using that eBird data. Um,
We're just
how
going
to,
to have you back, Ethan.
I know I can just keep talking. So yeah.
Other questions? It's been really helpful for me. I'm like, oh, I just found a couple of the things that you talked about, and it's going to be really helpful.
If you need a cathartic release in May in the morning, I recommend you come here to the real-time checklist submissions page. I'll show you how I got there again in a second. You will see United States light up. It will be constantly be lit with submissions being submitted. This is real-time checklist submissions. So if you submit one right now, Minneapolis is right there, maybe? You would see a little uh, dot of yellow pop up. Really cool in springtime to come to this page and just see it lit up with people submitting data. So
Nice.
that's on the Explore tab, all the way at the bottom, submission map.
Nice. Well, thank you, Ethan. This has
Yeah.
been really great. I know I'm going to go play around with it, and yeah. So this will be for folks. I know some folks have already had to leave, but we'll be putting
Mhm.
this up on our UBC website for those to come back. You want to come back later